Hello friends, welcome to CEC Gurukul Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to continue further in our series on entrepreneurship. Dear friends, yesterday we had a vivacious session on entrepreneurship in context to India, and today we are going to extend further and we are going to talk on business houses and we are going to talk in context to India. Friends, for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is a prolific professor and currently she is principal in Sri Aurobindo Evening College, University of Delhi. She is an author and her books are admired by the students and academicians worldwide. Dear friends, if you have any questions pertaining to today's topic, feel free to talk to us to our toll-free number. Our number is 1800110430. I repeat, our number is 1800110430. Now, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Namita Rajput, once again. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the lecture.
Yeah. Good morning, friends. The topic of today is about the entrepreneurship in Indian context. So, in this, we would be talking on the concepts of business groups. Yesterday, we gave you an overview of what business groups are. So, today, we will be talking in depth about what is the concept of the business groups, what is the basic role behind it, what is the composition, what are the conflicts and the possible resolutions in this regard. So, starting with my lecture on the concept of the business groups. It can also be referred to as a cluster of legally distinct firms with the managerial relationships, where this relationship may be formal or informal. So, mind it that this kind of a business, definitely we have to talk about the legally distinct firms when you talk about the managerial relationship. So, it could be formal and it could be informal. So, each and every word in this definition has got a specific meaning. According to Powell and Smith, a business group is a network of the firms that regularly collaborate over a long period of time. The Indian family business groups are alternatively called as the business houses. They have a distinct feature of household or extended family quality and contribution. They are defined as a collection of publicly traded firms in a large range of industries with considerable amount of common control by family and its members. In India, because of the diverse culture, social, ethical composition, the business houses are united through a diverse association of the members among its group members. As a result, these strong social ties of the family, caste, religion, language, ethnicity is clearly evident in these business houses or the family business groups. The prominent business houses could be about Tatas, Birlas, Singhaniyas, Ambanis, Bajaj, Walchans, Modis, Thapars, Dabur, etc. Now we will be talking on what the specific role of the business houses is all about. The family-owned business groups, houses, are an all-pervading component of the Indian business landscape. So when you talk about the overall business scenario and the landscape in India, overall proliferation is about the business houses which are family-owned. So this is a specific feature of the business landscape in India, that most of the business are relating to the family groups or the houses. So they have not only escorted the nation's excess and the growth in most of the significant industries, but also it exemplifies how the business is done in India and the market capitalization on the stock exchange. As the Indian economy opened itself to the rest of the world, it was expected that importance of the business houses will get, of course, reduced, but surprisingly these business houses not only survived but flourished in a new open and competitive environment. So this is a very important and interesting feature, that when you talk about the Indian economy, way back since the dawn of liberalization, that is the July 1991, when the reforms were announced, there was a de-licensing of the Indian economy. There was, the gates for the FDI for the foreigners were opened. So there were sweeping reforms which were announced way back in 1991. And as such, there was a complete threat from the foreign countries, from the rest of the world. And as the Indian economy opened, this threat even increased. And, of all, it was expected that the importance of these kind of business houses will get reduced. But surprisingly, the trend is just the contrary, or vice versa. These business houses could, survive very easily, and the flourishment of this new open and competitive economy, came through. So this is really an amazing fact. Let us know now about the summaries of the significant role which the business houses play in India. The first most important role which the business houses play in India is about the economic development. They have a very pivotal role. When you talk about they, it means the business houses or the Indian family business. They have a very important role and pivotal role when you talk about the economic development of the country. And it is evident from the fact that approximately 80% of the Indian business houses are either entrepreneurial in nature or family owned and managed. So this is quite a big number. 80% is having a share in the Indian landscape business is huge percentage, and they being the backbone of the Indian economy, they are substantially contributors to the gross domestic product of India. They are primarily small and medium in sizes and play a very major role in the economic development of the country. The second major role which these business houses play, besides the employment generation, is the second one. Besides the economic development, the second important feature about the role of the business houses is about the employment generation. These business houses, they generate a massive employment in the private sector by creating new job avenues, and because of their elaborated structure, they offer wide variety of job opportunities to all type of workforce, and by creating the millions of jobs, they provide respectable life to a large number of people. This kind of a role of the business houses is, incredible, because when you talk about the developing countries like India, and developing countries in general and India in particular, to increase the standard of living of the people, to be a major contributor of the gross development product, employment generation is a most significant and the key feature of these business houses, which is definitely, very, very pivotal in nature. Now coming on to another important role of the business houses. So the third is the social upliftment and the welfare. You understand that the upliftment of the society and the welfare of the society can only take place if there are economic transactions which are significant for the Indian economy. So this particular role of, increasing the transit in this direction is played by the business houses or a family business in India specifically. So establishment of these business houses has led to, of course, the upliftment of the society, as they are actively contributing in creation of the modern infrastructure facilities, better medical amenities, improved educational services, and the production of the quality and goods and services. Coming on to the fourth important significant role of the business houses is raising the standard of living. They create a wealth for the nation, facilitate a progressive income generation. So, this is a very significant feature of the business houses in India, that they play a pivotal role, key role, nucleus role, the center role when you talk about the standard of living of the people, and which is the requirement and a prerequisite for any country to be on the developing path or the growth path of the economy. And as the per capita income of the people raises, it leads to raising of the standard of living. Not only this, the initiative taken by them to set up a new enterprise helps in removing the scarcity of goods and services, in offering of the wide variety of goods at much cheaper rates and price. Now see, when you talk about the raising of the standard of living, so one aspect is generation of income, which comes through the employment opportunities. So this is one thing. It helps in raising the per capita income is another thing. Then of course, giving them the immense opportunities to buy from the array of goods and services at the competitive rates is another angle. So all these three angles are enveloped when you talk about the role of the business houses in India. So another role of the business houses in India is all about the balanced regional development. The business houses help in removing the regional disparities by setting up the industries in the backward areas. This will result in a well-balanced development of all the regions uniformly and ensure the equitable distribution of income and wealth. So this is again a good thing. See, when you talk about one nation becoming, one part of the nation becoming poor and another part of the nation becoming, rich, this is a real bad thing. So these kind of business houses, they help in plugging the gaps of the nation part which is dipping down by equitable distribution of income and wealth. So they could set up another unit there so that they can really play a role in raising the standards of the living of the people. Not only this, raising their income levels, disposable income levels, giving them immense opportunities to buy from a wide variety of goods and services, and that at a very competitive rates. So this is a role which none other than the business houses can play. So another feature of the role of the business houses in India is about the optimum utilization of resources. So, they help in the best possible deployment of the nation resources like labor, capital, technology, natural resources. They make sure that the wastage is not done at any level of the production distribution and of course of the competitors. The next important role which the business houses play in India is about carry out the innovations. There's a difference between the invention and innovation. Invention is a part of the science process which is done to basically help the mankind. This is taking a lot of years, a lot of resources, scientists working together, and eventually after the years of research, etc., then they come out with an invention. So invention is one aspect which is definitely, it's an ongoing process and a continuous process in this regard. But when you talk about the innovations, the part of the innovation levels is all about the commercial transactions. So this part and carrying out of the innovations is a significant role which is only played by, or a major part of it is played by the business houses. Innovations is all about adding certain features to the product or existing features to the product or improving the services so that the lot of profits can come in. So it has definitely a very important commercial angle. So they conceive, create and offer new technologies in the process. By carrying out the innovations, they not only produce innovative products but also the innovative strategies, management systems and organizational structures. The next is your trade promotions. These business houses, they significantly contribute to the India's trade promotion by manufacturing those products which are considerably demanded by the foreign countries also. So they strive to achieve it by increasing the export potential, both in terms as well as in the relation to imports. Now I'm coming on to another aspects of the family business, coming on to the definitional part. So the meaning of the family business is a business entity that is owned and controlled and managed by the members of a single family or an extended family. Now, it is a commercial enterprise in which the majority of the stakeholders is held by a person who was founded, promoted, established the company, and at least one family representative is actually involved in the administration of the business. In other words, a venture is said to be family owned if one of the family members is a controlling shareholder. That is, it possesses at least 20% of the higher voting rights in comparison to other shareholders. It can be interchangeably referred to as a family firm, family owned business, family company, but in the essence it means a profit making association where the administration is held by in the several generations of a single family or a closed related family. So now we have discussed the definition aspect of what family business is all about. So we have seen here that everything is owned and controlled by a family only. So it carries a legacy from one generation to another, to another, to another, with the orientation of making the profit association amongst the family owned business with a very closed related families only. So the family business is a firm which has closely identified with at least two generations of the business, and when this link has had a mutual influence on the company policy and on the interest of the objectives of the family. The family business are those where policies and decisions are subject to significant influence by one or more family units. This influence is exercised through the ownership and sometimes through the participation of the family members in the management. It is the interaction of the two sets of organization, family and business, establishes a basic character of the family business and defines its uniqueness. Now we will be talking about family business in India. In India, the family business array from the small mom and pop stores, that is the Kiryana, to huge conglomerates with uniformly diverse business interest. So, it started with the Kiryana stores and now we have huge conglomerates wherein the business has increased many folds, and we have uniformly diverse business interest which is related and integrated in this regard. So, their involvement in India's progress and the growth is really commendable and incredible. And with this, the skyrocket expansion, many of them have dared to enter into the new horizons by acquiring the business in new industries and areas. And it is rightly said that the business, family business, are the unsung heroes of the Indian economies because they have really, traveled miles away, and this is definitely beneficial for the Indian economy. Now let me explain you what the family business in India are all about and how it started and its journey, which is incredible in nature. So when the family business started in India, way back before the liberalization, so it was very limited to pops and the mom stores. Like the father started some business, could be of say Kiryana stores or something. So the wife would enter, the son would enter, then the sons would enter, and it would end into generation to generation. So this was a mom and the pop stores. So slowly, because of the advent of commercialization, expansion, liberalization, globalization, privatization, the things have really changed, quite a bit, and there's a sea change in the strategies of the moms and the pop stores. So now instead of the moms and the pop stores, they are substituted by huge conglomerates, which is definitely a very good feature for the Indian economy because they are playing, a very, very important and significant role, and the business has increased substantially. So is the standard of living of the people, so is the gross domestic product of the economy, so is the expansion of goods and services. So all things are related to each other. So that is why we say that when you talk about the family business in India, they are the unsung heroes for the Indian economy. They have definitely aggressive growth plans. They have mushroomed like anything. They battle to retain, better retain staff in the bad times. Also, they focus on supporting the community issues and responsive in their business decision making. They are strong, energetic, flourishing. Being extremely determined and industrial, they are delivering huge solid earnings even in uncertain economic conditions. So earning in a very, the uncertain economic conditions is definitely a very commendable thing. So again, coming on to the features, they are incredible, aggressive, huge expansion is there. They have a very good backup plan as far as the retention of the staff is concerned. Even in the rainy days, they have a good backup of retention of their staff. They focus on supporting the community issues also, so that they are addressing to the community corporate social responsibility issues as well, because everyone knows the need of today. We are deteriorating as far as the environmental impacts are concerned. So in no way any type of business is allowed to carry out any kind of a commercial transactions if it is carbonizing the economy. So all efforts have to be made in decarbonizing the economy, and this is a very responsible role which these family business in India are playing. Had it been they are ignoring the community issues, they would not have been survived as such, because now we have green consumers coming up. We have the green issues coming up and cropping, and they have spread like anything because we do not have planet B. We have a common universe in which we stay together. So to clean the environment, to address the community issues is a very significant responsibility of all the people around us. So these community issues are very responsibly being addressed by the family business in India also. They are definitely strong, very energetic. Their market intelligence system is also very good. They are flourishing, and of course, being extremely determined and industrial, they are delivering huge earnings even in the uncertain economic conditions. So that means what? They are very intelligent. They study the market. They indigenize certain products which are imported from the foreign countries, or if they are into some chain of the foreign products, they also indigenize, because the habits, styles, the needs and the wants as far as the Indians are concerned are different from the global product. So what they do, they definitely indigenize the global products in the Indian style, taking into consideration the diverse happenings around the environment, and of course they are able to survive. They are grounded so much that in terms of the uncertain economic conditions like political instability, economic instability, environment instability, they are able to have huge profits, substantial market share, and they are not disturbed at all. So these are, the key features for the Indian family business in India. Coming on to another issue. These big business enterprises, they are contributing significantly in the growth and development of the Indian economy, and hence they expect the government to offer them a well-targeted support in terms of easy access to the capital, quick approvals, higher predictability and the clear tax rules, because they are supporting the Indian economy. They are significantly contributing the economy in terms of GDP, in terms of employment opportunities, in terms of production of goods and services. So hence they expect something in return, and the government time and again is improving on the takeaways for these family business in India. They also give them tax holidays, clear tax rules, some kind of predictability, easy tax approvals, easy approvals for all the compliances which they have to do. So definitely, nonetheless, they are incorporating their role into the mainstreaming of the business policy, and so that this family business can even survive better. Although if you talk about the present share, it is approximately more than 80% in India. So nevertheless, the family business can dynamically facilitate themselves, first by adopting the publicly listed competitors' specialized processes, strategies, practices, and secondly, by being more proactive in securing the assistance they need. If we are able to service what they need, if we are able to service what they want, if we want the government support or the exchequer support, they are also getting, so definitely they will perform better. The Indian landscape business needs them, they wants them, because they are the unsung heroes in India. Now coming on to some of the largest business family, look on to the screens. The first is a Walmart. We are talking about the largest family business firms worldwide now, because when you talk about the Indian context, we must give a proper reference for the global context comparisons also. So in this regard, I just want to give few examples for the largest family business across the globe. So the first is a Walmart, which is definitely in US with the revenues of $245 billion, which is run by the Sam Walton family. So the next comes the Samsung Group, which is in the South Korea. The revenues which they generate is $98.7 billion. The Lee family takes care of this. The Flat Group in Italy, the revenue which they generate is $54.7 billion. It is managed by the Agnells family. Now we have a McCain Foods. We enjoy the aloo tikkis, the fries, and etc. So it is, the revenue which they generate is about $3.5 billion and is run by the McCain family. Then we have the Tata Groups in India, in which we are able to generate $7.9 billion, and it is run by the Tata families. So these examples are very important for you to understand, because you would understand how much revenue they generate, how much the employment opportunities they give, how significant it is for the business in India. So now we are coming on to what the challenges these family business face. There is no doubt that the family business is a major contributor as far as the gross domestic product of any country is concerned, specifically in India. But what is particular about the family business is they almost face unique management. The challenge is primarily because of the differences in the attitude and aspirations of the family members. As and when the new generations connect to the family, so now we are addressing to the challenges. As and when the new generations they connect to the family business, it becomes a massive challenge to keep the family and business together. It has been noted that only small percent of the family business survive till the third generation, and fewer go beyond the third generation because the business families collapse due to generational conflict. So this is a major challenge and impediment as far as the family business in India is concerned, that the new generations which are connected to the business, they have a different mindset. They are born and brought up in a very different environment. So could be the views which were there of the older generations of the veterans or the baby boomers or Gen X, they do not match with Gen Y. And this is what is called as generational diversity, which eventually creates the generational conflicts. And to resolve these conflicts is definitely a very, very difficult and most problematic job. So one of the biggest challenges the owners of the family owned business, that is the FOB, family owned business, face is how to ensure the survival of the business enterprises, as it is the most vulnerable point of existence, the passing of the baton from one generation to another. So this is again conflict. Everybody wants to be the leader. So there's a first is there's a diverse views of each generation. Second is the issue of becoming a baton. So who will run the business? Who will be the leader? So the management of these critical transitions has a strong correlation to superior business performance and the growth of the family enterprises. However, the lack of readiness, discord at this time may result in major value erosion and in many cases the disintegration of the family enterprises into small units, setting the unit back several paces from its growth trajectory, in some cases even leading to irreversibility of the economic potential. Now conflicts are a major part and parcel of the family business. Every now and then we come to see that even the Ambanis, both brothers have separated. So this is eventually when the views will not match, or when there's a conflict of the generations, this is eventually the family business has a tendency to be away from each other. So they are integral element of any family business, and we should not be perturbed about it. We should try and resolve it. And according to the studies, nearly 45% of the family business regarded to have a conflict of 3 to 4 times in a year, which is not a very healthy figure. It is worth mentioning that not all agreements usually happening over the issues like difference in opinion and perceptions can be termed as conflict. Some are point of discussion only. So in fact, the conflict is a disagreement of higher degree which must be resolved. The following mentioned are the few common causes occurring in a family business. The first is the compensation. It is most common cause of conflict in any family business. It is not only referring to the salary but to a wider term including the share in profits, ownership, perquisites, long-term appreciation of assets. Compensation conflicts arising not only over the who gets paid how much, but in fact over who gets paid how much for doing what. This gets worsened when a not so actively involved family member demands an equal compensation and is paid to be the best performing family member of the business. Competitiveness. For any business to be a success, it has to be competitive enough to face the world, but on the same time, this competitiveness becomes a cause of conflict in family business. So the first thing was in relation to the compensation part about the money transaction. The second is about the competitiveness. For any business to be a success, it has to be competitive enough to face the world. So sometimes the competitiveness can also cause a conflict in a family business on the price issues, on the range of the goods they add, etc. So if one of the hand business are required to be competitive to sustain and succeed, and the other side, they have to be supportive and accommodating for its family members also. This calls for non-competitive, integrally, which eventually results in two other types of conflicts: sibling rivalry and intergenerational rivalry, which is definitely an HR part. So the next is your control. The next important cause of this staggering conflict of the family business is who's able to have the maximum influence on the business. Then many a times it is noticed that the parents, they do not have enough confidence in their children, and as a result they are reluctant to pass on the entire control to their successors. They assign the children to higher positions of the company, but they do not transfer enough power to act freely on them. This leads to a destructive family conflict, resulting in the conflict in the business. Then we have a confusion also. So the fourth chief source of the conflict in the family business is intense lack of clarity, lack of subject of position, function, relationship, responsibility. It dwindles into an ambiguity, then to uncertain confusion, and finally to the conflict. The conflict is the fruit of confusion, where there is a collapse of communication or a reluctance to introduce and abide by systematic management process, or a lack of transparency in the functioning of the business. Now we have definitely the conflict outcomes are very bad. The confusion will lead to more problems in the business, and even it could erodes and corrodes and destroy the family business also. Then the last is your carryover. Another significant of the conflicts in the family business is the carryover of disputes from one generation to another. They are not solved. The old wounds are not properly addressed, and the disagreements continues, distress continues from one generation to another, and they have a strong conviction that this can never be resolved. So this carryover of conflict is another problem. The sibling rivalry, accountability, nobody is able to take up that accountability. Then of course the succession problem is there. Who's going to is the most powerful person, to what range the decision happens to be succession from one generation to another. Then sometimes the faulty family governance also leads to a lot of conflicts. Then we have differencing vision. Another noticeable reason for conflict in the family business is the difference in vision and outlook of the family members. Everybody is different. Each one has, the founder has its own vision, the new members have their own vision. So overall, these kind of problems are there, and it is generally observed when the founder vision does not matches that of the other family members. They want to run the business in some other manner. This results in differences among the family members. So with these words, I think you are able to understand the basic conflicts which are there for the family business. Probably in the next session we would be talking on the resolution, because the time is not permitting us to take up the resolutions in this part. So I think you have a clear idea about what the family business in India is all about, the definitional aspect, specifically what role it plays in India. And with this, I thank you, Gitika, for inviting me here.
With this, thank you so much for giving us this session on business houses in context to India. And dear friends, we believe that you might have lots of questions in mind, and if you have any question which you like to be answered, then feel free to talk to us through our toll-free number. Our toll-free number is 1-800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1-800-110-430. So friends, you are welcome. We are able to take your calls right now. Till you call us, we have lots of questions in mind, and I would like to ask those questions from Dr. Namrata Rajput, today's expert. Ma'am, we have discussed in detail about the business houses, but still we want to revive some of the points we have already discussed. So wish to know what actually a business house is, okay, and what are its distinct features.
Okay. Now we are coming on to the conceptual framework of the business houses. As we have already discussed, it can be referred to as a cluster of legally distinct firms with a managerial relationship, and where this relationship may be formal or informal. And I'm just stating one, the definition which was given by Powell and Smith, which is quite famous. A business group is a network of the firms where regularly they collaborate over a long period of time. And the Indian family business groups are alternatively also called as a business houses. they have distinct feature of the household or extended family. So from generations to generations, they keep on working on the same, and they were also called as the moms and the pop stores, and it was very limited to small business because at that time the things were very simple. There were no complexities involved. So could be selling of the oil, selling of the rice, Kiryana stores. So they were very particular to very small, not very complex nature of the business model. So basically we can say it can be defined as a collection of publicly traded firms in large range of industries with considerable amount of common control by the family and its members. And in India, because of the diverse culture, social, ethical composition, the business houses are united through a diversity of association among its group members. So finally, we can say that as a result of these strong social ties, when you talk about a family, the caste, religion, ethnicity, it clearly gives an evidence that the business houses or the family business groups, the most prominent, if you ask me, are Ambanis, Chabadiyas, then we have Bajaj, Birlas, Walchans, Modis, Thapars, Dabur. They are the very key and good examples of the business houses in India.
So, what is the role of a business house in a particular?
See, when you talk about the family business or the business houses in India, they play a very, very significant and the pivotal role. And I have just given you the statistics also that they have a substantial share of 80% as far as the GDP is concerned, production is concerned, innovations is concerned, then production of goods and services is concerned. So the family owned business groups are an all pervading component of the Indian business landscape. And perhaps when the the liberalization regime came way back in 1991, there was a complete threat that these business houses would collapse because they were in the direct competition with the foreign products, in which they have already achieved the excellence in the production, excellence in cost optimization, excellence in the optimization of the maximum fullest use of the resources, and they had since they are the capital rich countries, so they can play on any equation. So when they were entering India, the floodgates were opened for them, and at that time I remember certain industries 41% equity was allowed, and in certain cases 51% of equity was allowed, in some cases 74 was allowed, and in some cases even 100% was allowed, especially when you talk about the export oriented units. So there was a common conviction which was prevailing at that time that the Indian business houses will not be able to survive. But surprisingly, they were grounded, they had a substantial interest, and even they mushroomed at that time. So the most important role, if you ask me, which they play, the first thing which they play is about the economic development. So they play a very significant role as far as the economic development is concerned. They are the backbones for the Indian economy because they are the major contributors for the gross domestic product in India. And they play a very significant role as far as the employment generation is concerned, which is the need of today. So people are not economically independent, and since these kind of units, if they start, they will give them a lot of employment opportunities, which has very linkage effects in terms of uplifting the social aspects, the welfare aspects. Then it can also add to the raising of their standard of living of the people. And it could also play a role as far as the balanced regional development is concerned, the optimum utilization is concerned. They even carry on with the innovations because the innovation is one feature which can fetch you the maximum profits. You must have seen the advertisements which are coming in the Indian commercials, like they would also say that it is different. You can also see in the mobile phones that on a blink of an eye, the technology is changing. This is all innovation. So innovation is specifically picked by the private business houses. They spend a lot on the R&D issues. So they not only promote trade, but yes, it is overall very good for the Indian economy.
When we talk about the family business houses, how could we explain its definitional aspects?
Okay. See, when you talk about the family business, it is a business entity that is owned and controlled and managed by the members of a single family or extended family. then it is a commercial enterprise in which the majority of the stake is held by a person who has founded, promoted, established the company, and at least one member representative is actively involved in the administration of the business. In other words, we can also say that a venture is said to be a family owned if the one of the family members is a controlling shareholder and it possesses at least 20% of the voting rights in comparison to other shareholders. It can be interchangeably referred to as a family firm, family owned business, profit making association, where the administration is handled by several generations of a single family or closely related families.
So this was the definitional aspect, and if we talk about the aspects in context to India, what would you say?
See, when you talk about the family business in India, we say that in India, family business array from a small moms and the pop stores, that is the Kirana stores, they have, earlier they were there, but owing to the success of these moms and the pop stores, they are now substituted with the huge conglomerates, and their involvement in India, progress and the growth is definitely commendable. With their, the skyrocketed expansion, many of them have dared to enter into the new horizons, acquiring the business in the new industries and areas, and owing to this, they are also called as the unsung heroes, and I've already given you the kind of role they play. They aggressively have a huge economic growth rate. They are very strong, very energetic. They have proliferated the Indian economy. They have a substantial interest, and they are definitely extremely determined as far as the delivering of the huge solid earnings are concerned. They are having also the uncertain economic conditions. And if these big business houses contributing significantly in the growth and the development of the Indian economy, they expect the government to also offer them. And nowadays, I think the government is also reforming and adding certain new features, giving them more initiatives, giving them some kind of a tax benefits, etc.
Now, ma'am, we wish to ask from you, does the personal relationship between the members of the family or those who are into the family business are the cause of the conflict?
See, we are in a world of a family, right? And everything revolves around a family and the generations, 2 generations. The family business was started by one generation, which is, carried on by the other generations. So we keep adding the new members in this regard. And when you talk about the human dynamism, human relationship, interrelationships, generational conflicts, they are bound to happen. Because even if you compare your own 5 figures, they are not the same. So how can you expect the same mindset from all the people who are associated and linked with it? The persons who started the business, they have a very strong and different convictions because they were out from a very war-shaken economy. They have a very conservative approach in terms of investing very diligently. They have a very conservative approach in terms of, putting their money very, very diligently, very, very intelligently. They would not, take risk. But as and when, the new generation is adding to it, they have different wings. They want to fly high. They want to have shortcuts. They want to earn more profits. They have a different mindset. So, they are born in the world of education. They are born in the world of knowledge. So, the kind of mindset they have is very different from what the other generation had. So, the older generation, we call it as veterans or baby boomers, and the newer generation, we call it as Gen X and Gen Y. So, the Gen X and Gen Y, even they do not match because of an age difference of 15 years. So, what to talk about the veterans and the baby boomers? They have a very different mindset because of the, we call it as a generation cohorts. Generational cohorts are basically the mindset which one generation will develop and the other generation will not develop because they are born around the same. For example, just give you my own example, I was born when we were into a free India. So what my convictions are, it cannot be what my parents had, because they were clutched and they were really struggling for the country to be having that kind of a freedom. So we were born in a very different, even now if I compare myself with my own child, they are just so demanding. They are just living in free India. They just want everything in a blink of eye. They want communication to be an instant. So that is why we are moving on to messengers, onto Facebooks, onto WhatsApp messages. So they are they do not have the patience. So if you talk about the family, these kind of knots, these kind of ties, they are not at all important for the younger generation. They want to live alone, they want to have their own convictions, they want to have their own lives. So when they are exposed to the family business, so they are not too happy with their forefathers, their fathers, their parents, their uncles and aunties, because they have their own way of living. So this creates a lot of problem, and that is why we have a splitting of the family business nowadays. So what threat the liberalization could not have, the threats are now offered to this kind of a business because of the new generation adding to the existing setup.
Yes, you have very well quoted, because every one of us is an individual first, and of course we are a part of a family, and within a family, even a husband and wife who are said to be the two wheels of a same vehicle, they too are the individuals and they too have their personal identity. And as you yourself said, our situation demands and it carves our personality also. So it is the society as well as the lifestyle which we are leading can cause the conflict between the two persons. And when it is a matter of fact regarding the conflicts in the family business, yes, we have to accept it. Ma'am, what are the other causes of the conflicts?
Okay. See, when you talk about the success of the family business in India, there are a lot of challenges which the family business they have. The attitudes, the aspirations of the family members, they are different. The earlier generation was quite patient, satisfied, loyal. But if you talk about the current generation, they want to have their own life. It's my way or highway is their attitude. They just don't want to listen. They are not patient listeners. They are not patient learners. They want the things to be absolutely in their own way. So I'm just coming on to the challenges now. As and when the new generation connect to the family business, it becomes a massive challenge to keep the family ties in one way. So specifically I am talking about in terms of the business perspective. It has been noted that only a small percentage of the family business survive till the third generation, and fewer go beyond the third generation also, because the family business collapsed due to the generational conflict. So that is why I've given you an example that the threat which was offered by opening the gates for the foreigners way back in the dawn of liberalization is not that major cause, but the major cause which is coming today is the generational conflict, which is the most difficult thing to be resolved. Everybody has its own conviction, everybody has its own viewpoints, mindset, so you cannot just pile on your own self onto the other members of the family. So one of the biggest challenge of the owners of the family owned business, that is the FOB phase, is about how to ensure the survival of the business enterprise, as this is the most vulnerable for the existence, and of course everybody wants to be that I am the leader. So the issue of the baton is the most important. From every family will feel that my father should be a baton or my father should be a leader. So this is another problem when you talk about the family business in India. Then you can also think about the readiness and discord at different times. It is not easy to resolve the business. It is not easy to resolve that discord between the family members, and the conflicts are a part and parcel of the family business life. They are an integral element of a family business, and according to the studies, nearly 45% of the business agreed to have a conflict of 3 to 4 times in a year, which is not very healthy figure. It is worth mentioning here that not all the disagreements usually happening over the issues, the difference in the opinion and perception can be termed as a conflict. The most important issue which is coming in my mind is the compensation. Everybody wants to have a compensation, so there's a lot of conflict in relation to I should be getting this, I should be getting the higher emoluments. Then there's a problem of appreciation of the assets, who's going to be paid higher. Then of course the family business, they they face a lot of competitive issues also. The market is competitive, so they have a lot of competition within them. Then they have a control. So who's going to control the conflict in the family business is also a problem. Then many a times you feel that their parents do not have the confidence in their children, and they do not want to pass on to the control. So this is another problem. They do not even trust their own children. So they are ready to give them the higher positions as far as the line of control is concerned. But yes, they are not able to give them a free hand to work. Say could be they could hamper the financial with them. So there's a lot of confusion. There's a sometimes the major problem of the conflict is that the conflict is not resolved from one generation. There's a carryover of the conflict from one generation to another, and then to another, and then to another. So this is a significant cause that the older wounds will be they can also become cancer, which has no solution. So the total financial discord will happen, and there are a lot of sibling rivalries, like suppose there are twins in the family, or could be a small age difference, and the younger one is more energetic or more dynamic. So there's a problem of again becoming a baton, or there's a sibling rivalry in this regard. And so all these succession problems, the old woods problem, the family governance faulty issues, we have a differencing in the vision which is offered from the generation to generation. So these are the basic the problems which the family business can face.
Ma'am, though we are going to discuss on how to resolve these conflicts in our forthcoming session, but because we have talked lot about the conflicts, so how these conflicts could be resolved?
Okay, there are various methods which is used to manage the conflicts. Like the first is the competition. Now, according to this method, the conflict is resolved using a pressure by those members who wish to basically achieve one own self motive even at the cost of others. So this is the biggest resolution in this regard. The most aggressive and the least cooperative person use the competitive style to accomplish the preferred solution. They basically employ whatever power is obtained and tolerable: persuasion, rank, economics, expertise, and coercion. See, these are the small techniques which I would like to explain you in detail in the next class, the next lecture. But yes, there are few things, like certain people are very assertive. So but they will put in the pressure on the family members that yes, we have to do it. So using of the assertions, like they are not giving any chance to anyone to speak, and they are having such good influential personality that everybody will say okay, yes, they will follow what their baton is saying or what their leader is saying. So the other thing is persuasion. See, whatever resolution techniques we have, they are all humanly in nature. So we cannot force anyone, but yes, being assertive is one, being persuasive is another. So a lot of things can happen with discussion, compassion, with love and affection. So they would like to have a persuasive session in which they can have a round table conference. They are able to keep the views, and of course the consensus can arise. So they can be persuasive in nature. So besides being assertive, you can also influence certain persuasive techniques which can really give a good mileage and resolution of the conflicts. Then another thing you can also put is a coercion, which is a negative and a punitive action. That if 90 to 95% of the members they agree, and 5% they agree to disagree, so the coercive methods can also be implemented, which is definitely can only be done by a senior. Coercion is basically use of some physical force, or taking away the family property, or having a dispute, or they are just showing the negative consequences that if we do not agree on these things, this can all happen. So all these things can really help in resolving the issues. But yes, the rest of the techniques are needs a lot of discussion, and probably could be the topic of the next presentation. Yes,
definitely, dear friends. We promise you to bring for you another session where we would be discussing on how to resolve the conflicts regarding the family business. There is a lot more for you. You are just required to be connected with us because we always play a crucial role in giving a useful content to you. Friends, if you have any questions or feedback for this particular lecture, then do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. We are taking your leave with the promise that we are going to meet again very soon, and we would be carrying our series on entrepreneurship further. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.